Good evening, everybody. Welcome to ILEETA's first ILEETA Live of 2023. We hope you had a very happy and festive new year. We're glad to see you here. We're glad that you're joining us here tonight. Myself, Todd Fletcher, are here with our very special guest, Dan Green. Unfortunately, our other co host, Joe Willis, was not able to make it, kind of stuck in an airport. Sounds kind of familiar with a lot of us that travel a lot. So, Dan Joe sends his regards and was really hoping to be here tonight and speak to you. So, we'll have fun, and we miss Joe. So,
It won't be the same without him. It's
I
okay.
know.
It'll be better.
A lot less facial hair.
That there you go.
But it is what we needed, though, to really spice things up as another bald man for the presentation. So someone with thinning hair.
Move our hair real quick. Well, hey, I want to kick this off with not a lot of folks that are watching have been to the ILEETA conference, and then we have some that have been there for years, but there's probably some folks that don't know who Dan Green is. So, Dan, give us a little background of who you are for those that may not know you.
I like the comment that just popped up. Someone wants someone to quickly grow a beard. That'd be great, wouldn't it? I bet somewhere on my technology here, I've got a avatar that will do that for us. So good evening, everybody. My name's Dan Green. I am just a little bit about me. I'm currently the executive director of the National Association of Field Training Officers. I'm also a 26-year law enforcement veteran at Chandler, Arizona, just outside of Phoenix. I'm a family man with a wonderful, beautiful, smart wife of 20 years and two awesome girls, one in high school sitting over there doing her homework. Hopefully she's paying attention to her push or geometry or whatever she's doing. And the other one just started college up in Northern Arizona University. And I've been blessed with the opportunity to teach in law enforcement for about 23 of those 26 years, and even more so blessed to teach at ILEETA, I think for 8 straight years now, I believe, minus the one COVID dropped year. So been extraordinarily blessed when I got the chance to do that about 8 years ago, and I stuck. Or it stuck. I was invited back when I proposed to teach again, and the ILEETA family, like the two of you, have kind of welcomed me in, and I've been there ever since, and it's been pretty awesome.
Very cool. Well, let's kick it off here really quick with just a comment we received. What is your favorite ILEETA memory, Dan?
Well, so that's a good question. I didn't. Nothing's scripted, right? And we don't script
Nothing's
this.
scripted,
So
no.
a couple things do come to mind. You're going to talk, Brian. The only thing that was on the agenda today was to talk about the Trainer of the Year nominations that we want people to put in for.
Yeah.
So that's a great memory, but let's talk about that when you're ready. So I think year one, my first year at ILEETA, first things first, the way I was invited to go to ILEETA was through a common friend of ours, two of them actually, John Bostaine and Keith Wenzel. I met them both in the Phoenix area. They were teaching classes. We ran into one another and we hit it off. We had what John Bostaine still calls to this day the best stout he's ever had at a Phoenix bar. And he's like, "You really need to get to ILEETA, Dan." I was there with our friend Graham Tinius. He's like, "You guys need to get out there and you should go out there and teach." And I was like, "Okay." And I rolled the dice and voila, we went. So here comes the funny story. Me being, and Graham as well, being the type of guy that didn't really know where we were going, new to ILEETA, wanted to show up and impress. This was when ILEETA was at Chicago, in the Chicago area. We show up and we're among about 1,000 people in the ballroom getting ready for opening ceremonies, being the only two people wearing suits.
Ooh.
Not 5'11" tactical suits,
Sharp.
but suits. All right. jackets, ties, button-up shirts, dressed to impress. And damn it, we looked good, but we were sorely out of place. We were really out of place, and we looked around going, I think we overdid it, right? I think we overdid this. I'm going back to the room. I'm going to get a pair of 511s and combat boots and a polo of some sort, and try and blend in.
Yeah, not IACP.
No, it's not IACP.
No, not
We just
actually.
got the chance. So I'm glad I didn't reverse that problem. I just got the chance to present at IACP in October. Very glad that I didn't reverse that problem and show up in all tacked out right at IACP. I got it right there. The shirt and tie was appropriate for IACP, but not necessarily for ILEETA. So if you plan on coming to ILEETA this year and it's the first time, no need to overdress. All right. In fact, pack your tactical sweatpants if you want to. Just show up.
Everybody can show up dressed like me. I'm kind of known to walk around wearing shorts, so
You
it'll be
do.
cold outside. As long as it's inside, it's a steady temperature inside.
You do. You do. Now that you mention it, you are in shorts. I might follow your lead this year.
Always in shorts. And Dan, you seem to always wear some either Converse or some type of very cool tennis shoes there.
I try. I grew up in California. You wouldn't know it by looking at me now, but I'm a bit of a beach bum. So Converse, Vans, those type of if really honestly, unless I'm at work, if I can't slip my shoes onto my feet without tying them or untying them, I don't wear them. So that's a rule of thumb.
Gotcha. Dan, you kind of alluded to it, but back in 2017, you were selected as ILEETA Trainer of the Year. Can you tell us when you were selected as Trainer of the Year? Before that moment, when you were when whoever made that announcement, I don't know if it was it Harvey?
Harvey called me a week, maybe two, ahead of time, and it was just a very shocking type of moment. I knew of Harvey, and I've never talked to him before prior to that. So I was really impressed that the director of ILEETA gave me a call, and I was even more impressed that there was someone out there that thought enough of me to nominate me. So it was a very humbling experience.
So you knew ahead of time before you got to the conference.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I did, and I really think that's the MO. I don't know. Todd, I don't know. Were you surprised?
Oh boy. Yeah, I was shocked. I had no idea. I didn't even know I was nominated. I had nominated a few other people that year, last year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was shocked, flabbergasted, and kind of speechless. It was a surprise.
Right.
It's the only time in my life that I've ever been that surprised. So.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Until I had to go up there and figure out what to say, then.
So yeah. Well, so let's see. I don't know. I had been going to and from ILEETA for about 5 years or so prior to winning. So when I did get the heads up that I had won that year in 17, I knew that I was going to have a couple minutes to say thank you. So I got the chance to prep a little speech, and then dressed up again. Right. I got another chance to put on a button-up shirt to receive the plaque. So it was a really special time. And if you know someone out there, like to the audience listening in, or if you tune in tomorrow and catch this recording, and you know someone who deserves a nomination, you really need to jump on board and do that and send it to ILEETA before it's too late to get it in for March. And if not this year, next year. But the fact that, like, I've said this every time I've talked about this, I say this, I make sure I say this. And it was the idea that someone cared enough to nominate me still humbles me to this day.
No, I know it's got to be a huge honor to receive that not just the nomination, but once you win it, you get up there in that stage in front of the world, some of the world's best trainers, and you get this award from Harvey, the executive director of
Right.
ILEETA. Both of you gentlemen here, Todd, you won it too, and what an honor! And you know, very both of you very well deserved trainer of the year. You guys are some outstanding trainers that do some hard work and do some wonderful things for law enforcement. And I just want to thank you guys.
Well,
Well,
thank you.
I tell you, there are, man, at any given ILEETA conference, there's probably 36 people that have earned it every bit as much as Dan and I.
100%.
There's no doubt about that. There's an amazing array of talent out there, and to even be nominated was a huge honor, and then to be selected was, well, kind of stood in awe of the people, that were there at opening ceremony. And I think back, and I'm sure Dan would agree, we stand on the shoulders of giants, the people that put us in a position to do what we do. They're really the ones I think that ever.
I totally agree, 100%. And every year someone wins that award, but that year I did, and you look out at the men and women that did not get the award that year, more than likely, like that year, thank God there were, all of those deserving people weren't nominated. I mean, that gave me the opportunity, but you wonder, like I've said, I've used the word humbling a couple times, but you just wonder how in the world, you got there. Again, that person who nominated me, and for me, it was a guy named Graham Tinius, great friend of mine. He thought enough to put in the nomination. Other people who vote on it, which by the way are other recipients of the award, so there's really no fix in this game.
Sure.
Because the other recipients of this award, the previous recipients, vote for the current recipient. So like there's no favoritism. There's no fix in the game. It really is an honest award based off of merit. And so that group of people took a look at that nomination and my resume and pulled my name out of the hat, and that was fantastic.
And again, very deserving for both of you. And just want to remind everybody that's watching tonight that the nominations for the ILEETA Trainer of the Year are due February 10th. So make sure you get those nominations in. It's there's a link in an email that went out from Harvey, I think 2 ILEETA emails ago. We'll put it in the chat below here for those that want to nominate somebody. There's a lot of great trainers out there, a lot of deserving people. Only one gets it. So take some time and recognize one of your fellow trainers as somebody that is very deserving of the Trainer of the Year.
Totally agree. Free of charge too.
Free of charge. Free of charge.
Oh, looks like there's a link.
Oh, there we go.
So Dan, tell us more about NAFTO and what you guys do for field training officers, for agencies in that realm. Why should ILEETA members also be a member of NAFTO?
Yeah. Well, great question. Thanks for giving me the chance to plug NAFTO. NAFTO is a special organization. NAFTO is an association I've been part of now for about 15 years. I mean, when I say a part of, not just a member, but in some form or fashion, part of its leadership, whether it be a previous state chapter here in Arizona or on the executive board or today as the executive director. And I don't have enough time in a day or space on my calendar to commit this type of energy to if the association isn't absolutely worth it. And NAFTO is. What I like to tell people about NAFTO, the National Association of Field Training Officers, is I really think the most important word in that title is the 2-letter word of. And we are a not-for-profit organization that consists of members from the first responder world, not just law enforcement, but also corrections. So we, under the large umbrella of law enforcement, we have patrol FTOs, we have corrections FTOs, we have detention FTOs. I've had prison cooks in our training classes. We have EMS is represented in our association. So if you're a first responder and you train in the field, NAFTO is there for you. And then once you're in it, you're a member, and we exist for you. You, the member, guide us. You, the member, lead the way in terms of really kind of what you want from our association, and the culture that you want out of the association. The executive board is fantastic. We quite literally represent first responders from border to border, coast to coast. Well, we have executive board members from the middle of the country, like Colorado, from down in the south, like myself in Arizona. We have instructors that come from the state of Washington. We have board members that are in Utah and New Jersey. Our president's from New Jersey. We have instructors that come from all over the country. And it is a very unique association when instructors come together and someone asks about national trends. Well, our association, we don't have to find the research. We don't have to speak about it anecdotally. We don't have to even give it our best guess. All we have to do is tap into the leadership of our association, and we have immediate feedback from around the country about what's going on in the training world. So it's a special organization, and we teach our heart and soul is 3 different classes that we teach: our basic certification school for entry-level FTOs, an advanced course for existing FTOs that want to up their game, and a management workshop for FTO supervisors and managers, people in command staff positions that want to workshop field training management concepts together. I think it's a great class. It's a class we just finished writing, and you basically start the class with a blank slate, and by the time you leave, if the workbook has brought you all the way through what should be an FTO manual, and if you needed it, you can create an FTO program the very next day based with that as the backbone. So that's probably a long-winded answer. It's just a good organization with hardworking people committed to it. We're all full-time police officers. Wherever it is we're coming from, we are also still fully employed police officers. And we commit our spare time to this not-for-profit organization, trying to provide very affordable training to different parts of the country, big cities, little cities, counties, rural departments. If you invite us, we almost always show up.
You also have an annual conference, right?
We do.
Talk a little bit about that and when the annual conference is and what goes on there.
That's a great question. I'm going to open up my calendar real quick so I don't get the dates wrong, right? So let's take a look at this. I don't want to put out bad dates. You would think I'd have it memorized, but I'm 50 years old. Yeah, so our annual conference is coming up the week of, or these are the exact dates: Wednesday, June 14th, 15th, and 16th. All right. We'll be in Phoenix, Arizona, and it hasn't been in Phoenix in many years, so we're happy to come back to my backyard. And the annual conference, again, us being a not-for-profit organization, means that what we bring in terms of dollars and cents is required to go back to benefit our members. And we do that in a couple different ways. This conference is the cornerstone of our membership benefits. It's an extremely affordable 3 days of training with some master level instruction. And I'm not that's not even hyperbole. We have Brian Willis coming out this year. We've got Carrie Avery coming out this year. We've got Anthony Bandiero coming out this year. And we have another 12 different instructors that are coming out for about 12 different breakout sessions, 3 subject matter expert panels to discuss 3 very distinct field training concepts and issues, and 2 general sessions with our primary keynote speakers. So we've got all of them coming out to join us. We also have a banquet that Thursday night. We feed everybody. We have a hospitality room, which has got very legendary stories that I can't share. It's one of those what happens at the conference stays at the conference type of things. So I just can't get into it. All I can tell you is that it's always a good time. All right. We've partnered with organizations like ILEETA so that they can help contribute to our conference, and then we hopefully contribute to theirs. We have Adam Kanakin with ILEET, who was a partner as well. And Kim Schlau is coming out this year to be a presenter and also hold a fundraising auction for her foundation. So we're just gonna have a good time, and we got a lot of stuff going on. And I think everybody really enjoys it, and actually takes away a lot of good stuff from our conference in terms of learning new things.
Awesome.
Kim's on here, and she says she's looking forward to it. I
Hey,
know
Kim.
Carrie's looking forward to it. Carrie could make it tonight to watch us. She's on the mat playing jujitsu. I don't know.
She's breaking
I am
bones.
not.
Yeah, breaking bones.
Kicking ass, taking names.
She'll watch later, but yeah, good stuff. Hey, so as an FTO and part of this great organization, what are you hearing from all these FTOs? It's very encouraging from all these new officers coming up in the FTO program.
Man, good question. So a lot of the positivity, so a lot of the positive things I hear, I just got back, we were speaking pre-show, I just got back from Dallas. And in that particular class, that was our 2-day advanced course. So I'm talking to FTOs who have anywhere from a year, maybe to several years worth of experience in the field. And I'm also talking to a handful of FTOs that have trained at least 2 different generations, right? They've trained maybe the old farts like me and also the millennials. So, and we're on the cusp, right, of inviting Gen Z into the workplace now. I mean, they're in civilian places as well. They're in the private sector already because they're probably 17, 18, maybe 19 years old now, going on 20. But give it a couple years and they'll be in law enforcement. So we've got a lot to look forward to when it comes to the youth of law enforcement. So what do they bring that's really positive and really optimistic? You know, they themselves, especially the incoming Gen Z, have early type of feel and vibe when it comes to the Gen Z men and women, is that they're really kind of like durable. Now, that being said, they are more aware, they're more self-aware of their wellness than, in my opinion, any generation prior to them. So their own personal wellness, emotional, mental, financial, physical, they seem to be more self-aware of that than any other previous generation. They're proactive about caring for themselves that way, in terms of taking care of themselves emotionally, much more than I was when I was their age, going back in time. I'm very much, I think the 2 of you guys are as well, part of the whole just walk it off generation, rub some dirt on it generation. Unfortunately, it's hard to walk off or rub dirt on psychological scars, right? Emotional scars. So there's a lot of optimism. So I think there's a lot of optimism there. Younger millennials and the Gen Zers coming in, think about it this way, have experienced in their formative years a national culture that has seen pretty regular conflict, yet they've survived it, right? Pretty regular. If you are if you're a millennial and you're roughly 25 to 26, 27 right now, you have seen military conflict overseas. You've seen domestic terrorism. You've seen terrorism overseas. You've survived it. You've seen school shootings. You've survived it. I mean, you've lived in your formative years, you've grown up in a culture that has provided plenty of conflict, plenty of negativism, plenty of reason to be down and out. And you've also grown up in an environment, in a culture where law enforcement has been kicked in the teeth for several years. So now ask yourself, if you have men and women joining your ranks that want to join your ranks today, even considering all the crap that has been thrown at us in the world of law enforcement for the last few years, and they still want to join your ranks, that's a level of optimism that, frankly, I don't know I would have had in 1996 if the conditions were the same. So there's a ton of optimism. They're completely invested in coming in to do business. They're completely invested to do well. Um, as is with every other rookie cop, there's going to be obstacles to overcome, and there's going to be there's going to be that transition between civilian to sworn type of stuff, and good instructors will be able to do that. So that was a little long-winded, but hopefully it answered your question.
No, we always hear about the negativity, and I just wanted to hear some positive reinforcement of what you're hearing from the FTOs out there in the field. So thanks, appreciate that.
Yeah, you got it.
I think that's a good question. What are some key points for an agency or even an individual FTO or the FTO coordinator what they do to develop a stronger program within their sphere of
Yeah,
influence?
that's a great question. And I don't know who that is there, but it's almost as if they planted that question for me personally. I swear to God, I didn't have anybody do that. I swear I didn't. But NAFTO and NAFTO's leadership and the executive board and myself all together have this year, technically we started to launch this idea last year, and it was my presentation at IACP. It is time now, it's as good a time as ever right now to revitalize FTO programs nationwide. Just a real quick summary. The FTO program, the San Jose model, and I'm certainly not throwing darts. Okay, this is not me throwing darts at anyone's model. However, it's a 1972 creation. The PTO model, the Reno model, and again, not throwing darts, it's a 1999 creation. And what other part in law enforcement do we still use systems, equipment, technology, vehicles, radios that are 23 to 50 years old? Yet we still use training systems and training models that are 23 to 50 years old. The San Jose model and the Reno model is exactly what law enforcement needed at that time. And it's 2023. We're now 23 years into the 21st century. And we're still trying to figure out the 21st century police officer. So it's time to revitalize the field training programs. Whether you're using PTO or FTO, it doesn't matter. It's time to revitalize them. So a real quick answer to that, not that anything's been quick so far, but some things that come off the top of my mind is NAFTO has an acronym that we're starting to use in classrooms, in management classrooms, and at presentations. We call it SEND. And it helps develop the culture of your training environment. Is your training environment safe? So now I don't mean, do we have pillows for people to lay on when they become overly stressed? And do we have pom-poms, and can we make cushion rooms? I'm not talking about that type of safe. When I'm talking about safe, I'm talking about, have we built a training culture and environment that our young men and women in the law enforcement world feel safe to be vulnerable in? Because I think if you're out there watching and you are a police officer and you think back to your rookie years, especially in the FTO program, the biggest challenge, or one of the biggest challenges you had, was to make a decision, right? Just making up your mind on whether to arrest somebody or not made you sweat and pee a little. That's how stressful that was. So add to that stress. One of the greatest obstacles, one of the most common obstacles for young officers in the field for generations is the obstacle that usually rears its head as a question. I wonder what my FTO wants me to do. And if the new officer gets stumped on that question, what you're actually telling me, whether it was intended or not, what you're telling me is the student in this case doesn't feel safe to make up their own mind without first checking with the teacher. And we got to get away from that. We want our students to make themselves vulnerable, make up your own minds. If it happens to be a bad decision, we'll fix it. But I don't want, what I want is to create men and women who feel confident in making up their own minds. We'll take care of the decision-making process so that we can get better outcomes as we go. But from the very beginning, I want you to feel safe here. Make up your own minds. I want this environment to be networking. I want to encourage collaboration, right? So I want to desperately encourage collaboration. The idea of old school idea of that FTO car being an island to itself, where you have student and trainer, and you're isolated from sergeants, and you're isolated from watch commanders, and you're isolated from dispatch, and you're isolated from other officers around you, and you're telling other people, don't look that new guy in the eye. All right. Don't look the chief in the eye. It's all about networking, because that leads us into our D anyways. Our D is diversity of thought. So we need to make sure that our FTO programs cultivate diversity of thought. And we do that by making sure that we are a training program that has diversity of thought, right? So I want my new officers to be diverse and to think on multiple planes when it comes to decision making, not just extremely legalistic, but to use an overly used term, the outside the box thinker, right? But I want my new officers to think on different planes. Well, I need a training culture that thinks on different planes. I've got to have FTOs that enjoy the SWAT aspect of the job, and I've got to have FTOs that prioritize the narcotics, and I have FTOs that prioritize community, are really heavy into community policing, which, by the way, we really all should be, right? If you have FTOs that don't understand community relationships, we got problems. But I've got FTOs that have experience in being in detectives, and I have FTOs who have experience or ambitions to be in traffic, so they focus on traffic. And I have FTOs that introduce me to dispatchers, because part of my decision-making process and my growth and maturation process as a young officer is to understand not just my job, but how can I make my job, what can I do to make their job easier, right? So I'm getting to know communications, I'm getting to know records, I'm getting to know our detention personnel, and our detention personnel are getting to know our patrol personnel. So diversity of thought is important, isn't critical. So it's time to revitalize our FTO programs, focusing first on the culture of the program, focusing second on the talent of the actual trainer. It is being a good police officer is not synonymous with being a good teacher. All right. It's absolutely true. So don't get me wrong. I want you to command staff level people. I want you to go find good police officers. They've got talents and knowledge and skills that need to be shared. Don't take for granted, though, that they're also going to be good teachers. In most states, for me to teach bloodborne pathogens to my peers in law enforcement, I have to first be a general instructor, and I have to first receive a certificate and get the bare bone basic instructor skills taught to me to go teach bloodborne pathogens, to go teach how to make traffic stops, all the way up to different, more complicated things. However, most states don't require that to be an FTO. So if I'm going to teach some of the most critical aspects of law enforcement, like decision making, conflict control, stress management, Graham versus Connor, and how it's actually implemented in the field, Terry versus Ohio, and how it's actually implemented in the field, because where those things go wrong can be $1 million mistakes. However, the instructors I'm using to do that, they don't even need an entry-level instructor certificate in most states in this country. So we need to capitalize the T in FTO and get our FTOs trained to do their primary job better. And their primary job, now that they're instructors, is teaching. And it's a weird, sometimes maybe a hard pill to swallow for some people, but that FTO's primary job is no longer the enforcement side of the job, but to teach leasing. You know, when they are teaching, when they're acting as an FTO, their primary job right now is to teach it. And so they need to be equipped to do it properly. Culture and your training culture is where you start. Right behind it, if not 1 and 1A, is improving the quality of the FTO.
Whew.
Love it.
Wow.
Love it.
Oh,
You one of the things that you mentioned was the very first letter S, and creating that safe training environment. You know, we in our firearms classes, we talk about creating a safe place to fail forward, to make mistakes and to learn from them. And it kind of sounds like the same thing, changing the culture of your training environment in order to make it a better learning environment where people aren't afraid of failure, that they're willing to push themselves and learn from it, and it's not going to be held against them. Because what I remember from my experience going through FTO was you could do 10 things absolutely perfectly. You make one decision that wasn't absolutely spot on, that's what you got graded on.
100%. So, and you make two very good points. One is I speak through the lens of the FTO. When I describe a safe training culture, I'm talking, I speak through that lens, that paradigm of being a field training officer. You have that elite, level firearms instructor type of experience, but it's the same, right? If we're talking about, let's just wipe away let's not consider what it is we're teaching, because it doesn't matter. What really matters about having a safe training environment is how we're teaching it, right? And why we're teaching it. So what we're teaching is always going to be there. It's always going to be there. What we're teaching, firearms, patrol tactics, search and seizure, what we're teaching is always going to be there. That's easy. That's the easy part. How we teach it and why we teach it are the two more complicated parts. And so our trainers have to be well schooled there. I think the three of us remember our FTO days and even police academy days, or maybe your early years with the last and a previous generation of firearms instructors, that when you're on the line and something goes wrong on the line, you're laughed at and it's brought to everyone else's attention. Like, oh, ha, ha, look who shot someone else's target. Hey, everyone come on over here and look. Right? So now that student, and if that happened to be me, and I might be part of that walk it off generation, but in my mind, yes, I'll get over this. But in my mind at that moment, I'm going, F you, instructor, you just embarrassed me. So it's unnecessary. So let's not do it. Well, now to your second point about you've done everything so well today, and then you get that one thing that derails the entire grading system in the FTO program, right? So you think you've done well today, and then you FUBAR something, and now here you are hit with, let's say if you're working in a San Jose model, you're hit with that 1 or 2. You're like, oh, I just got kicked in the gut again. What I want to throw out there, and we certainly don't have enough time today to talk about it, is there are options. There are training models that are out there. My agency, Chandler PD, uses one. Scottsdale PD uses the same. We use FTO models right now that don't require a rating during coaching phases. The training system is broken into two very distinct phases: coaching and evaluation. Uh, PTO and FTO traditionally have always put the test before the lesson. And this model that we're using puts the lesson before the test, like every good academic learning environment should. So we spend roughly 3 months coaching and coaching and coaching and coaching and coaching and getting that new officer to a reasonable standard. And then they go into the evaluation phase where they're actually put to the test and evaluated. And if they meet the standards at the end of that phase, they graduate. If they don't meet the standards, they don't. But we teach the lesson first, and then we enter the test phase. So I'd like to, if I was king of FTO across the country, I would ask every agency to move towards that type of environment, because it too puts academia first, right? Education first. So, and that's ideal in an education setting.
And I think it only makes sense you're only responsible for the stuff that you've been taught. If you haven't been taught it,
Right.
isn't it time to teach it first and
Yeah.
then
What
evaluate later? Right.
what other
To me, it makes
classroom do we
sense.
do it in? The field in field, the field, that's the only classroom in which we grade and teach simultaneously. We don't do it on the range. We don't do it in the DT room. We don't do it in the classroom. All other learning settings, educational settings in law enforcement are traditional lesson then test, lesson then test. In the field, we test and teach simultaneously. And that is crazy to me. That's a little off the wall. But we've always done it that way, so it's very hard to get away from it.
The worst reason to continue doing the same stuff.
Right.
Well, hey, Dan, we got about 15 minutes left. I want to switch gears here just a little bit. In just a couple months, we're all going to converge on this hotel in St. Louis for the ILEETA conference.
It's right behind you.
Yeah.
That's the hall. That's the grand hall right there.
No, I haven't left. I'm still here drinking a beer. I wish. But what are you looking forward to this year at the conference?
That's a great question, and I wish I recently have had more time to look at what's ahead of us, like specifically, like who's going to be there, what are they teaching this year, and even better than that, like I have a lot of instructors that I like to go back to on a regular basis and see teach. However, what I'm really looking forward to, not just this year, but every year after this, is growing the next generation of ILEETA instructors. So as soon as I'm sorry I can't answer the question with a lot of specifics because I haven't opened up the book yet to really dive into it. But one of my goals this year is to go out and see 2 or 3 instructors that I've never heard of before. If I can find those instructors who happen to be first-time instructors at ILEETA, I want to get in there and encourage and support them. And personally, I'm making it another goal of mine. So far, I've had the chance to encourage 2 other people to come out and teach. They have put in proposals, and in the last 2 years, they've been accepted. So I'm going for 3, so by the time we're back in 2024, I hope to have a 3rd new instructor out there. So I'm really looking for the youth in terms of instructor youth, newbies at ILEETA, and see what they've got to say, and get connected with them. That being said, I'm going to also look forward to all the things I always look forward to. That hallway, the grand hallway behind you, where we put our feet up after hours and just network and shoot the you-know-what and talk about family and talk about, it's not just cop work, right? We have plenty of conversations about policing and training, but we also talk about each other's families, and we talk about kids that are growing up. I mentioned Kim Schlauer earlier today. She was out here in Phoenix a couple weeks ago. We had dinner with our families, we've known each other for years. This was the first time we got the chance to have families together, and that was fantastic. I wouldn't be able to do that if I wasn't an ILEETA member, if I wasn't at the conference, if I didn't make friends, right? I wouldn't have the opportunity to do that. So I'm really looking forward to making new friends, seeing old friends. I should say this, I always leave ILEETA, if I had hair, on fire, right? To keep teaching, right? In fact, now that I'm thinking about it, I can blame ILEETA. Ever since I started going to ILEETA, my hair is so on fire to teach. It's gone. So I'm looking forward to just getting there. Both the officers that work directly for me as full-time trainers for my agency are coming. So it's for the first time in my agency's history, our entire advanced training unit is going to be at ILEETA.
Wow.
That's
Very
awesome.
cool.
So looking forward to giving them a new experience. And I'm also obviously looking forward to sharing NAFTO's mission with people who will stop and listen. And again, like I said, see old friends, make new friends, talk policing, talk training, talk family, have a couple of Four Roses old fashions.
A couple of.
With the candy cane, the candy stir.
Getting together with Kim. And one of the things that I like about ILEETA, that I say almost every ILEETA Live, is it's more than just networking. It's more than just membership. It's a family. We're all family. And it seems like when somebody lands in Denver, they're calling, "Hey, Brian, where are you at? What are you doing?" Or somebody lands in somewhere in Texas. "Todd, what's up? What are you doing?"
Yeah.
You know, me and Todd were in Idaho Springs at the same time. We didn't hook up, but we were in a small town. Well, I don't know if it's small, but a little town in Idaho a year or so ago. And so
Right.
it's an extended family. And that's what I really love about ILEETA.
It's an extended family, like this listener, this watcher, this viewer just said. It's a family reunion. But imagine this, though, everyone. It's a family reunion without that crazy uncle, right? Or the unloved cousin.
No, we got the crazy uncle there.
All right.
Or two.
Or maybe I might be the crazy uncle
or Jerry,
or the creepy cousin. I don't know.
Oh, you know what, Dan? You're so positive. Hold on one second, Todd. Let me. I just want to get this this up. You're so positive, and I really you're very energized, and I'm just gonna blank out our screens, and hopefully.
I'm a pretty positive guy. I think if you happen to know me, you'll think of me as a pretty positive guy. Kind of like a silver lining guy, right? One of my old friends calls me Sugarcoat Dan. I'm a pretty positive
guy. So, I as I was driving home,
I don't even understand how you were able to sync that. I don't even understand how I was here I am being goofy and happy and telling you we're all goofing off, and then all of a sudden you've got that kapow.
Well, it's funny. I was driving home and I was thinking, what's something I could talk about? Dan is always positive, and I pulled up that Emerson Hour speech, and I just kind of zipped through it, and that's where I landed. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to somehow get this little clip and play in this ILEETA Live.
Perfect.
I like that look, though. I like that off-white, heavy shirt, lightweight jacket with the darker plaid underneath. I like that look. I think I'll go back to it.
What keeps you so positive, and you're always positive, you're always happy? What makes you tick?
I don't know. I think in general, I think my wife just walked in over here, so I'm sure she heard your question, so she can answer the question better than I could. Maybe. And what makes me so positive and energetic or whatever? Here's some improvising, right?
Well, she can join in.
She adds, and you know what? Interestingly enough, I was kind of go here myself. It's conscious and it's intentional for me to remain positive and silver lining type of person. I can, just like all of us, kind of nosedive into murky waters, right? In fact, I went through several years when I really struggled with my post-traumatic stress, where it was a real pain. And boy, can Cheryl talk about that too. And it was, no matter how intentional I was for the 5-ish years where I was really down and out, no matter how intentional I tried to be, it was very, very, very hard to be up. So I got the help I needed, and from family and friends and professionals and medication and therapy, and I got all that. And I feel like I'm much more myself now than I was during that time. Today I'm more like myself than I was during that time. Ooh, she said even better. Um, but it is intentional. I guess if I had to admit it, I guess I do. I am prone to be positive. I'm prone to be optimistic, and I'm prone to be a little goofy and stupid. But I have to work on it now, especially. I have to very much be intentional. And what's wrong with that, right? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with being self-aware and self-regulating? You're like, oh, I feel a little down today. Well, let me get myself out of this murky mood. And let me add a little bit of this. How could I not be optimistic and having fun? I'm on ILEETA Live, right? I'm hanging out with friends, and
There you go.
how could I not
Kind
be?
of what led us into this was your positivity and then the clip from Emerson Hour. Talk about Emerson Hour, what that was like for you twice now, right?
Twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
The single most frightening experience of my adult instructor public speaking life. Like, there might have been like 1 year when I was a teenager, I nearly drowned in the ocean under a giant wave in the Pacific Ocean. It was rough. I didn't know if I was going to make it. And when I stood up, I had lost my bathing suit, my swim trunks, and I was naked in front of everybody at the beach. I'll take that day over the stress of Emerson Hour anytime, right? Anytime. Now, it's extremely rewarding. There wasn't much reward standing up naked at the beach after almost dying in the Pacific Ocean. There wasn't much reward. There's plenty of reward in the Emerson Hour, right? When it's all said and done, you have that wonderful adrenaline rush of being able to speak publicly and share with people, and having people tell you how much they appreciate it. There's a great adrenaline rush, but it is, when it comes to my adult life and my experience in public speaking, which goes from the Emerson Hour, a 9-minute speech with zero aids, no PowerPoint, like no props, no nothing. 9 minutes. I've done that, and I've done an hour or two in front of a few hundred people, and man, I'd rather nearly drown and stand up naked in the Pacific Ocean facing the crowd.
Well, and add to that the stress. I've spoken twice too. It's keeping it a secret. You can't tell anybody. That's tough.
Right. Keep a secret. Don't tell anybody. Driving to and from work every day, whether I got to the point, one of my behind the scenes practices was going to work, practicing it, speaking it out loud, coming home, practicing it, and doing that for a solid month. To and from work, speaking it out loud, my speech out loud. It's a ton of fun. It's extremely rewarding. It's a high level challenge. If anybody out there happens to watch this show and you get invited to do it, you have to do it. You just have to do it. Don't turn down the invitation. Take the bull by the horns and do it, and enjoy just how crazy the experience is.
It's one of the most rewarding things you can do, and one of the most stressful things you can do as well.
Exactly.
And for those that don't know, if you go to ILEETA's YouTube channel, most of the Emerson Hour speeches are on there, and they are very powerful. So I would encourage y'all to jump on over there and check out those Emerson Hour speeches. So, Todd, I kind of ran over you last segment, so I know you had something to ask. I didn't.
I was just going to ask about Emerson Hour.
Oh,
I think from a personal perspective, the two Emerson Hours that you spoke at were fantastic. I love hearing the presentations during Emerson Hour, and when they are energetic, when they're positive, when they're optimistic, man, it's energizing for everybody. And so, kind of to tie those two things together, your positivity and your optimism and your energy with your ability to draw people in and get them kind of connect to them mentally and emotionally, do a really good job. So
Thank
I
you
want to
very
thank you
much.
for
I
that.
appreciate that. That type of those compliments coming from the two of you are again humbling. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. My dad always said, if I can't dazzle them with my brilliance, baffle them with my bullshit. So I'm glad I've been successful.
but you just can't miss anything at ILEETA. But if there's one thing that you have to go to, it is the Emerson Hour. Make sure
Right.
you go to the Emerson Hour.
So year after year, to your point, is regardless of what I've got going on Monday, let's say Monday, I've got nothing going on. I could fly in late on a Monday. Absolutely not. Nope. You've got to be there for the Emerson Hour.
See, and my take on is the same. You got to be there Sunday, because even though it officially starts with opening ceremonies at 08 on Monday, there's so much going on Sunday evening, people to meet, connections to make, things to get involved in. And then, for me, I have never been one to leave on like Friday. And I know that there are people that do because of travel arrangements and family obligations, and I get that. But I got to tell you, some of the best classes and some of the best conversations I've had with other ILEETA members is on Saturday when things are starting to quiet down. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great week.
Yeah, you got another Emerson Hour speaker that just popped up. I see Graham Tinius's mug up there talking about Emerson Hour. He is committed to this because he is right now in Guam. I don't even know what time it is in
Oh
Guam right
wow!
now. It's got to be middle of the night there. He's
What time is
teaching
it?
he's teaching in Guam.
It's probably tomorrow at like 06 or something.
That is committed.
That's commitment.
Well, hey, we're just about to the top of the hour. I'll give a little spiel, then we'll go around the horn. Todd will ask his final question, and then we'll end with you with your final thoughts there. My thing to the ILEETA members: make sure if you are teaching this year, get your article into Carrie, myself, Kim, Tom, and we will get you published in the ILEETA Journal about your class this year. February 10th is the deadline. Also, let's get those nominations. Where's my little ticker at? Our nominations for ILEETA Trainer of the Year. Get those in. Who do you think deserves to be the Trainer of the Year? February 10th is your deadline. And that's all I got. This is about you, Dan. Todd, final question words for Dan?
A reminder also, February 1st at, I think it's 8 o'clock, somewhere in there in the morning, is the live fire and certification class registration time. So if you plan on going to a live fire class, if you plan on going to any classes where you're going to earn a certification upon successful completion of that class, you got to get registered on February 1st. And a lot of those classes fill up really quickly. I know that some of the range classes fill up super fast. Some of the armors classes fill up quickly. So don't wally, don't wait. Get
Run,
registered.
don't walk.
Yeah, run, don't walk. First thing in the morning on February 1st. Dan, I really appreciate you coming on ILEETA Live with us. I learned a lot about NAFTO. I learned a lot about your philosophy. And once again, you kind of shared a lot of the experiences that all of us have had at the ILEETA conference. So could you talk about why, kind of in this closing, say whatever you are, want to end with, but kind of why should people go to the conference? What's in it for them?
So yeah, on our way out, thank you both for inviting me. Thanks to Joe Willis for inviting me and then no showing. I'll appreciate that, Joe. Um, and if you get the chance, if you're out there watching, you want to check out NAFTO, go to nafto.org and you can really check out everything else there. But ILEETA, right? I've derailed myself, Todd. What was your final question again? Give it
So
to me
why
again.
should somebody go to the ILEETA conference? What's in it for them? Whether their
Oh, yeah.
agency is paying for it or it's coming
Yeah.
out of their own pocket, why should they commit to that experience?
Yeah, so we've talked about the social aspect, right? So the idea of it being family and friends and connecting and networking. So I think that's very obvious. That's now obvious and clear. Let's take a look at it now from a more from a more administrator's background. If you're going there, if you are a law enforcement instructor and you're like, what am I going to teach in 2023? I really need some new ideas. You can go to ILEETA like I have, and like the two of you have, and I think and almost everyone I know has. And a week at ILEETA will feed your training calendar and itinerary for a year. You can go to a dozen or more breakouts and leave there with enough information to write a dozen, 2 dozen lesson plans and teach off of these concepts. Because one of the coolest parts as well, another cool part about ILEETA instructors is no one comes there with proprietary information that you have to purchase from them or something like that. This like it is it's an amazing amount of content that is just spoon fed to you. So if you want to convince your supervisors at work that they should spend the money, they should invest the money for you to go, what they're going to get in return is a lot of quality content that will feed your training for a solid year, if not more.
Totally agree.
Very good. Totally agree. Todd, thank you. Dan, thank you for being here.
Thank
All
you.
those that have joined us tonight and made some comments, questions, thank you all. We will see you next month, and we will see you live in person in a couple months in St. Louis.
Maybe with Joe.
Maybe with Joe. Y'all have a great night.